What changes have been made through the lifetime of reality TV to combat the unethical treatment of participants? Come with me as I explore the history of unethical treatment of contestants and what steps are slowly being taken to ensure their safety in the future. To understand ethics, we must first understand the differences between them and morals. Morals are usually built up over time and correspond with your personal experiences throughout life, and they can have a vast range between individuals who have had different experiences. Ethics is based on well-founded standards of right and wrong. What this means is that as a civilized society, we have a set of rules that define how we should treat and interact with one another. However, what is important to know is that despite there being societal standards of right and wrong, they don't always correspond directly with the law. Sometimes laws have ethics implemented within them, but sometimes they don't. To give an example of an ethical decision within reality TV, it would be unethical to allow someone to perform in a talent show when they're incredibly awful, as that would damage their image on a national scale. But where have we seen that before? Within reality TV, there are 4 categories to put these unethical actions in. These are intrusion, misrepresentation, humiliation, and appropriation. Starting with intrusion, this basically means to enter someone's privacy without explicit permission and can vary greatly between people with different boundaries. Misrepresentation is basically to mislead either the viewer or participant into believing the untrue. Humiliation is the act of lowering someone's dignity, and appropriation commonly refers to using somebody's name, face, and likeness in order to exploit them commercially. Although in this video I'm going to focus primarily on humiliation and misrepresentation, it is an important note that there is a history of all these categories being used to turn profits. Joining alongside reality TV with being unethical is the psychology of the viewers and participants. In a study called Sensitivity Theory, to find out why people accept maltreatment, it was concluded that each person has basic desires and we all find avenues to reach those desires quicker. The theory suggests that people who place such a priority on their desire were able to ignore the mistreatment. It also suggests that humiliation is a huge contributing factor to why people watch consistently, regardless of whether it's because you feel sorry for them or whether you want to laugh. It just begs the question, how little can producers care before people start to notice? Although what we recognise as reality TV started back in the 90s, its grassroots can be found as far back as when television began. It's simple in nature. The entire premise behind it is to showcase real life how it is.
Clothes smell of cat wee. Your clothes smell of cat wee.
A show by the name of Candid Camera popped up in 1948, with the idea of being a hidden camera show with practical jokes. From what I can gather when I watched a few episodes, the jokes played from are all rather harmless, and they will always include a clip of the victim laughing along with the joke, to reinforce the fact that the jokes are not the victims themselves. Into the 50s is when some of the ethical issues began to arise. Queen for a Day was a show that was based around the idea of helping the most impoverished contestant. Each contestant would be interviewed and the audience would decide who is the most deserving of the help. On the surface, this seems like an extremely thoughtful programme that is designed to help people, but upon thinking deeper, it seems rather exploitative of low-income families and profiting from their struggle stories. Reading into an article about the show, it was said that the host's job was to make women feel comfortable enough to beg. The programme also contained small segments where they would place an ad for a company that sponsored them. They were not technically bad in the original version. In a reboot a few years later, the show was quickly outed as having predetermined winners as a way to entice more sponsors that they could advertise to.
Here's a good suggestion from a famous product.
X-Lax, the gentle, dependable overnight laxative.
In the 60s, there was a social documentary named 7-Up, which was centred around observing the lives of a group of children and hearing about their aspirations for the future, which then grew into following these same people every 7 years to catch up with them. The programme chose 14 children to film that were all from different backgrounds. Is it ethically okay to sign up children for a lifetime of screen time? Is it okay to compare people based on their socio-economic background? Aside from this, the programme is very selective about what they show, with one of the stars of the show, Neil Hughes, mentioning during an interview, "People tell me I'm portrayed as triumphing over the odds, but that's not how I see my life at all. I'm grateful for the successes, but I see my life ultimately as a failure. I failed in almost everything I've tried to do." In 1979, Real People was a show all about compiling footage of real people doing things that are bizarre. Like with the earlier series of Candid Camera, this show features a live audience that is there to react to the clips and also interact with the host. The problem with these shows is there's a similar air around it as a circus freak show. Also, how aware were these participants that they were going to be made fun of? The show is clearly exploitative of people's quirks and is definitely used in order to turn a profit. Where reality TV really started to solidify itself as its own genre was with an MTV show named The Real World. The Real World is a show that started in the early 90s and still running today, and the idea behind it is to show 8 different people from a range of diverse backgrounds and then record their interactions with one another as they experience life in a particular city. Through the years, the show has been praised for its exploration into social issues such as homosexuality, AIDS, racism, religion and abortion. So what could be the issues surrounding it? Certain decisions have plagued the show's morality, with one in particular from 1999 where the show's producers allowed participants to drive while intoxicated instead of confiscating their keys so that they were able to squeeze out more content from the situation by getting them to see an addiction counsellor. I find it disgusting that the crew and producers saw no repercussions from this and instead saw their ratings grow as they appeared to help this girl. Personally, I think the producers should have seen legal action taken against them, as they had allowed somebody who was under their protection to endanger herself and other road users. There has definitely been a lot of poor decision making throughout the time when reality TV wasn't even an official genre that has led to a lot of ordinary people being left humiliated on national television. I've already spoken about some of the fairly minor ethical issues that have surrounded the genre before it was a genre, but far more scandalous actions have been taken that have perpetuated the mistreatment of participants on television. A few years ago, British reality TV programme The Jeremy Kyle Show received a lot of backlash for an incident regarding their aftercare and making sure that previous participants were not negatively affected by their time on the show. In 2019, Stephen Diamond was found dead after appearing on the show, which was sadly confirmed to be a suicide. The man had appeared on the show in order to take the lie detector test and prove that he was not cheating on his partner. Although it is entirely possible that he strongly believed he could pass the lie detector despite lying, it is also extremely possible that Diamond was a victim of misrepresentation in order to make the show more interesting, with the misrepresentation also being a causation for humiliation, and the fact that it would be on national television. It is no surprise that he could be made to feel low enough to consider what he did. Facing a similar type of backlash for a similar incident, Love Island producers ITV, who also produced the Jeremy Kyle Show, were shamed into providing aftercare for their participants after former star Mike Dalasitis also committed suicide. With shows that are so heavily based on judgment from a large proportion of a country, it is important to have an aftercare package for former participants so that they aren't completely isolated whilst receiving hateful messages all across social media. Although this is very much a step in the right direction in terms of reality TV becoming more ethical and making the right decisions based on the interests and needs of participants, why has it taken the public suicides of 2 men and probably countless more that were left unreported to create this package at all? Should it not be a set standard by now to look after the people who have helped provide you with enormous paychecks? Despite people having to die in order to provoke the correct response out of producers, I think that this extra support given to the participants after their appearance is of great importance. Not only because it's ITV providing support, and they host numerous reality TV programmes, but in the hopes that other reality TV producers and broadcasters will also follow suit fairly swiftly. With reality TV being one of the lowest budgeted genres that turns out some of the highest profits, it is deplorable that their former participants are forgotten by the producers quicker than the viewers forget what happened on last week's episode. Rapid and rampant change needs to be seen before the genre can be considered ethical. Of course, we can never get around the fact that people do enjoy reality TV. We just need to be in a position where people aren't left isolated with huge amounts of hate being spewed at them over the internet. It is the producer's job to protect all participants and former participants from issues within their lives that are a direct causation due to their time on the show,